We say good morning to Chris Doering, analyst for the SEC Network, longtime friend of the Junks.
CD's the best, man, because I text CD yesterday. All right, it's Labor Day, and I'm sure he's hanging out with his kids, and I don't know what he's doing. Probably working. But he says, bro, I've got a hit at 7:15, and I got my show at 8. He goes, I can get you in at 7:40.
Nice. Look at this guy.
And I said, man, you are the man.
This guy's a grinder.
Because he always makes time for the Junks, and I appreciate it. Chris, I do appreciate that.
We got to go back to how we started here. You said longtime friend. I was thinking about this, man. I started coming on with you guys back in 2002, so we're talking about almost 25 years of a relationship here.
Yep.
I would make much more of room for you guys than I would a lot of these other folks that hit me up. So
I was going to say, how many people texted you or called you this weekend to try and get you on to recap week 1?
Oh man, over the last couple of weeks, it's been which is it's common courtesy because as you said, I'm going on my show and we ask people to come on and do hits with us. But two, it's a privilege for people to even think about wanting to have on. But it's a little overwhelming, man. You don't ever want to say no to anybody. But it was a lot. There was a lot of requests, and we're trying to filter through it. It's that time of year. You said hanging out with my friends or my kids. I have not done anything. But Thursday on, it has been nothing but football and shows. So it's been a lot, but a lot of fun too.
Chris, when you were playing for the Redskins, when did you kind of start preparing for a media career? Maybe it started while you were in college.
Yeah.
When did you kind of know, hey, this is kind of something I want to do down the road?
Well, I got my degree in telecommunications. Florida has one of the best J schools around, so I kind of had an idea that I wanted to get into broadcasting in some way or another. I couldn't do the on-air stuff, news during school because we had football obligations. So sure. I did production, which learning the behind-the-scenes stuff has certainly benefited my career. But as I, even dating back to Florida and then on into the NFL, I always tried to make myself available to the media, understanding kind of that was the gateway to the fans and also an opportunity to get some reps in. So, I think I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, but I go back and look at some of those interviews from Florida and early days in the NFL. They were not good by any means, but I think like anything else, man, it's just about getting reps.
All right, we wanted to talk to you about 3 games, all SEC teams playing. Obviously, Bama, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about LSU Clemson. But your thoughts on Texas, Ohio State, and Arch Manning getting all this hype for months, for years, and just did not look in sync pretty much for the entire game. We knew
it was going to happen, right? It was impossible for anybody to live up to the amount of hype that had been surrounding Arch Manning. I mean, I think – we were all kind of caught up in the excitement of watching the debut, but that's a tough situation, man, taking over the starting quarterback reins at Ohio State in that environment with the type of roster talent that they have, particularly on the defensive side. I was really surprised with how well Matt Patricia did in terms of migrating from the NFL to the college game with things being different, including some of the rules and the time you have with the players. I thought they had a great plan. And to go back and put it all on Arch is a little unfair. I mean, you had bust in protection, you had receivers not, getting open. But at the end of the day, there were some decisions that were made, some inaccuracies, and maybe the problem that I had the most was his look of being scared. That last drive on third down, I think it's 3rd and 7. They got a shallow cross coming across the formation. There's not a defender around him. He's fallen back, stepping away from the throw and just kind of sidearming it out there. Threw it high and behind the receiver. If you throw it out in front, it's probably a 20-yard gain and the drive continues. But that's the thing that surprised me after going back and watching tape last year where he looked so poised in the pocket, the delivery was on time, his accuracy was there. I don't know how you clean that up. Maybe against a different opponent, he's not feeling those same things. But he's a good quarterback, man. I expect him to be better. I expect that entire team to be better. It's a tough game to open your season with, and I give them a lot of credit for scheduling it.
Chris, how shocked were you by the outcome in Tallahassee as Florida State handles Alabama, just dominates them on the ground, outrushed them 230-87. Alabama was sloppy, committing 8 penalties. I mean, this does not look like the Alabama empire that Nick Saban built. DeBoer, already on the hot seat, just 1 game into year 2.
It doesn't look like the Alabama empire, but it looks like the Alabama team from last year. Now they've lost 5 of 6 away from Tuscaloosa. And what are some of the common themes in those losses? Mobile quarterbacks still continue to tear their defense up. Castellanos was tremendous in Gus Malzahn's offense. The penalties, as you mentioned, those two things kind of date back to even some of the late years with Coach Saban. But I think the thing that kind of surprised me the most was just how out-physical they were. It reminded me a lot of the Vanderbilt game last year, and I think I talked to you guys about it then. That wasn't a fluky win. The better team won. The better team took it to them on the lines of scrimmage, and that's the same thing that happened in Tallahassee on Saturday. Florida State was the aggressor, even to the point where 4th and 1 from their own 35-yard line in the fourth quarter, they're going for it because they know they can get a push up front. And all we talked about all offseason was how deep and talented and experienced this defense was that returned so many players from last year, how much better the offensive line was going to be. The offensive line looked like trash. I mean, you say what you want about Ty Simpson, and he made his share of bad throws, but he was under duress a ton. I think he was 1 of 11 when pressured with 3 sacks and an interception. So there's a lot of blame to go around there as well. I just don't know if you can fix it. I don't know how you can fix the inability to be more, have a greater sense of urgency. I've heard a lot of people talk about how lethargic they look. I think that's true, but just the lack of fight and aggression and wanting to impose your will on the lines of scrimmage just wasn't there again.
Yeah, where does that come from? Because
I have no idea.
I mean, Saban's teams never played like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little entitlement. You know, a lot of these guys are highly recruited players that think they've made it by the time they get to Tuscaloosa, even more so now with the money that they're making. You know, maybe there's some, taking your foot off the gas because you think you've arrived at this point, but that was never a factor. I think I want to say that Kalen DeBoer already has more losses against unranked teams than what Nick Saban did in 17 years there. So the lack of preparedness and sense of urgency is concerning for sure. I mean, I've always liked Kalen DeBoer. I thought they got the right person for the job, but man, to see these things happen over and over again, and credit Florida State. I think Florida State's roster is much better than last year. Gus Malzahn's plan for Alabama was tremendous, but just the lack of real ability to impose their will on the line of scrimmage is not Alabama-esque by any means.
That just puts a lot of pressure on them the rest of the way, no doubt.
No doubt. Not much margin for error.
All right, so LSU goes into Clemson. I was also very surprised. I thought Clemson would win the game. I thought there would be more points scored. Cade Klubnik, who had 43 combined touchdowns last year, he looked bad. He was getting rushed. He was out of the pocket pretty much the entire game. They couldn't run the ball at all. LSU's got a lot of different players, specifically from the portal. Nussmeier's, 28 completions. He was solid. This surprised me because LSU's defense was not that good last year, but they look legit going into Clemson and win that game. Yeah,
I'm not going to say I was surprised necessarily. I did pick, LSU to win the SEC and the national championship this year, but this was a great test where we wanted to find out some things about LSU and how they've gotten better from last year. Particularly, probably 3 or 4 things come to mind. One, the offensive line, with losing what they did up front. That was something I wanted to see. Could you protect Garrett Nussmeier? Could you move people on the line of scrimmage, especially a really talented defensive front like Clemson has? The answer was yes. Will you commit to running the football, which I thought Joe Sloan got away from a lot of times last year? He did not in this one. They ended up having, almost 21 minutes of possession in the second half. So dominated, in terms of taking the air out of the second half and being able to move the ball, running the football. 3, their defense. Their defense was abysmal last year, and Blake Baker was brought in to fix that. It was a quantum leap similar to the one they had in Missouri when he was there from year 1 to year 2. And then 4, the ability to finish, something that had eluded them, particularly in openers over the last 3 years. That second half, they pretty much dominated. They win 14-0. I mentioned the time of possession, almost 21 minutes there. And I thought it was great complementary football, the ability to move the chains on offense, possess the football, and then an attacking defense. I thought the best part about it, though, Blake Baker understanding where to use his pieces, understanding the roster a little bit better, how to plug and play those guys. And how apropos was it that last 4th down play, Cade Klubnik's under pressure from a guy that had been forgotten about in recent years, Harold Perkins Jr. I thought playing in that star position was perfect for him, and then using him as a spy to kind of just mirror Klubnik and fire when he got outside of the pocket was exactly what LSU fans had been hoping to see.
And it gets real for your boys who they pounced on Long Island this
Did
past
you watch
weekend.
any of that game?
I just saw some highlights.
I mean, Long Island had 2 first downs. It was like a glorified high school team. I don't know what Florida got out of it for the most part, but you're right. Like, you go back and look at the Gators' schedule. They play USF this week, who USF pounded Boise, so that game looks a lot different. Then they go to Baton Rouge the following week. You look at the schedule. Miami looked tremendous and beat Notre Dame. Florida has to go down there after the trip to Baton Rouge, and then Florida State, as good as they looked, the Gators have to finish their schedule with them, and that's on top of the SEC schedule they'll face. So I have no doubt that Florida's schedule by the end of the year will be the most difficult in the country.
Oh, no doubt. 4 consecutive weeks at LSU, at Miami, Texas, at A&M. I mean, that's just brutal.
4 consecutive games. There is a bye week before Texas, but
okay.
it is that's a tough 4-game stretch for sure.
Hey, Chris, how good is that Nick Harbor kid out of South Carolina? We know him he's from our backyard. He's from D.C. It was a kid that Maryland really wanted, but lost to South Carolina. He flashed that big playability against Virginia Tech over the weekend.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was down at South Carolina's training camp a couple of weeks ago, and 2 players stood out to me out there. One was Fred Johnson, number 0, the middle linebacker that ended up having 10 tackles in that ball game on Sunday, and then Nick Harbor. And he's always been a freak. I mean, I'm standing there talking to him, looking up at him. There's not a lot of guys at 6'4" that I look up at, but I'm looking up at this dude, and I think he had been done a disservice. He'd never played receiver before. Everybody's projecting because of watching that 100-meter video where he blows away the field at that size, that he was just a plug-and-play guy. He's learned the nuances of playing the receiver position. He didn't run track in the spring, committing to becoming a better receiver. I saw the way he caught the ball at practice. I saw the way that he was more comfortable running routes. And this is a guy that with all of those physical gifts, now that he's figuring things out, I love that combo between he and Lenora Sellers, man. That's going to be a fun team to watch this year.
Hey, real quick, Vanderbilt, you mentioned them. Vanderbilt, they beat Charleston Southern big, not a matchup there. But now Vanderbilt has to go to Blacksburg. Virginia Tech was dreadful. You watched it. They were dreadful offensively. Defensively, they kept them in it. The punt return killed them, but offensively, they were awful. Vanderbilt beat them last year because Pavia killed them. I think he and Cedric Alexander are going to give the Hokies a lot of problems. If the Hokies lose another one to Vandy, especially it's their home opener, and they go 0-2, oh, man, all the pressure in the world on Brent Pry.
I was over. We were watching the game on Sunday with Alyssa Lang and her dad at her dad's house. Her dad and some of their friends are all Virginia Tech grads. Alyssa's a South Carolina grad, so it's kind of a fun dynamic to watch the game in. But just listening to the Virginia Tech fans lament where their program is and kind of longing for the glory days, it is sad, man, because that's one of the programs of our of our kind of era that had a great rise and certainly a great home field advantage. Now, Vanderbilt is not the same Vanderbilt of the old, but losing 2 years in a row to them, starting your season off 0-2 is not a good deal for Brent Pry by any means.
Chris, thanks as always, man. We appreciate the time. Thanks for fitting us in, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I love you guys, man.
Thank you, buddy.
That's Chris Doering, analyst for the SEC Network. He's always great.
I mean, he's starting his show in 5 minutes.
Very cool of him to take some time.
Very cool.
We do appreciate that. Coming up later in the show today, we'll give you a chance to win a pair of tickets to go see Dave Chappelle. He is at Capital One Arena this fall. When we come back, we'll tell you about a big change that's in store at your Costco location starting today.